Hi everybody, I'm Fred Kaplan. Nice to see you today. Thank you for having me here. I'm going to be talking about photography, motion graphics, animation, and specifically 3D printing. So while I'm talking, if you have any questions or would like to interact in any way, I'd appreciate that because we might get bored hearing my voice over and over. But as you all know, we live in a world with the technology that's just changing really, really fast. And my life has kind of been a good indication of that. So I started my career, my professional career as a still photographer. And I did things like this where I was photographing various different products. And it was a very specialized skill, and it involved, I went to college to study this at Art Center, College of Design in Pasadena. And so I had a studio and I had assistants and very large format analog film cameras. And what happened is that Photoshop was developed by Adobe, and of course I'm talking about a long time ago. So, so when Photoshop was developed, it kind of altered the playing field for photographers, and the work kind of changed. And so then I went into motion graphics after that, I believe. So I was working with After Effects, and I ended up working with The Tonight Show for about 12 years with Jay Leno, and that was a lot of fun and pretty interesting, and very demanding. And then along the line after that, I got into some 3D animation with Maya. So I worked on a couple movies, like there was a Godzilla movie in the year 2000, and I designed a Chrysler building, the polygons for that building. And so that was a fairly intense job as well. So in the course of all this learning, I was doing fine art work, and I was doing all kinds of different styles of work with different types of companies. And each kind of situation kind of required a different kind of attitude where, you know, sometimes I was the boss, sometimes I wasn't, and it was just what I found that was the most important skill in all of this was just respect for my coworkers and just trying to be patient because things don't always go my way, and obviously the software doesn't always work the way I want it to, and it's just always kind of an opportunity to just kind of learn new things. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I was at a gallery show of my photographs. And I was doing some like fine art kind of landscape kind of photographs, and someone came up to me and asked me if I wanted to sell 3D printers. And at that time I didn't even know what a 3D printer was, and actually I wasn't even a salesman, probably still not. But basically I was intrigued by this technology. I'll start showing you some things. This first 3D printer that I worked with, it used gypsum as the material that it built things with. So gypsum is kind of a white powdery thing, and it was able to put color in there. So do you mind if I just kind of pass this around?
Like salt, like
It's more like sand than salt. Have you ever heard of the white sands, New Mexico?
no.
Yes,
But
Okay, actually, you know what gypsum is? It's drywall. So the walls are made with drywall.
yeah.
So basically, it's drywall. So it's brittle, and it's heavy. Actually, you can feel that it has a lot of weight to it. But at the time, that was an inexpensive way to put color onto printers. So that company was called Z Corporation. And
Z Corporation.
yeah, they were purchased. I apologize, this gets confusing, but they were purchased by a company called 3D Systems. So it still exists today. It's contemporary technology.
I have to say this model is actually very well designed, and like I really love the the fact that like you could probably use it like as if like you're creating like your own claymation stuff or something like that.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know if you saw the movie Paranorman.
Oh yeah.
So Paranorman was printed with characters made from that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very complicated procedure.
How long did it take for you to design like something like that?
Well, that's individual, but something like that could take anywhere, I would think, 8 hours.
Wow.
More. What do you think?
I was gonna say maybe like a few days or something.
Yeah, right. I mean, it would take me a long time, but there are people who specialize in doing that kind of stuff. So I can figure out how this works. So this was actually a giveaway for the movie Paranorman, and it has lights up in just the different colors. So what happened with 3D printing? I'm going to show you. I'll show you some samples. I'll show you on the video what the 3D printers look like when they're working. But so what happened, as you guys you may know with 3D printers, so they've become very common lately because the patents have run out. So there's all kinds of lower price printers nowadays. And this is an example of that, but this is a plastic printer, and this has kind of a multicolored light thing in it. But you can feel the difference between the plastic and then the plaster.
I wanted to ask you a question on remember that movie Iron Man 2 and that scene where he had that large entire building of the city?
Mm-hmm.
Was that made with the same interior as the first prop you showed us?
I don't know. That's the short answer is I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, because
I know that the Iron Man's mask was 3D printed with a different technology. So there's some that are shiny. This is one that's kind of waxy, but you can see this is a portion of an engine that was all printed in one part.
I was talking about the scene where he gets the city, the fake city,
Mhm.
prop city.
Right.
How many hours would the producers have to make for that?
Yeah, I mean, it'll take a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, these things take months.
I mean,
basically,
you look at your city and it took you 8 hours.
the most complicated thing that I ever did as an animator is I designed, here, I'll show it to you. So this is long ago, so all apologies.
Yes.
Here. I'm mouse, I'm touchpad, Santosh, I'm failing in my,
Touchpad disabled or?
yeah. So if you go to the top and go, there's a heading for production or something higher.
Oh,
on
the very top,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, there you go. Okay, over there. Yeah, one more down.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for being Mr. Hands right now.
No worries. So production,
Yeah, and then down there is probably, oops. How about commercials? Go over to commercials.
okay.
Okay, I don't have it on my website anymore.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, so basically, what I wanted to show you is probably the most complicated thing I ever animated was I did a rainforest. And that took me the better part of 6 months to make a rainforest. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember, but it was millions and millions of polygons.
I'm not talking a big forest, right?
Yeah, no, basically I flew through it, I flew over it. The camera flew over it so you could kind of see the canopy. And then you flew down into a specific kind of like banana leaf thing and had water on it. And it was a company's logo reflected in the water. So I mean, something like that could take months. You guys are probably talented and more talented and faster than I am. But you know, it could take a while. I mean, nowadays, have you guys run into 3D scanners at all?
Yes, and I have a 3D scanner in my house.
Okay. So I'm gonna switch into my next box here.
Speaking of like a 3D printers, 3D scanners, what brand of like a 3D scanner, 3D printer would you recommend for a person like, or like the best one if anyone wanted to like be a graphics designer?
A scanner?
Yeah, or like or a printer itself.
So this is the printer that I work with now. And this printer is called the M-Core printer. M-Core, and it uses sheets of paper. This is made out of sheets of paper. Yeah, it's kind of a cool thing.
That whole thing?
Yeah, so basically what happens is that you get like sheets of paper, so they print out the color in contour, and then the printer puts this all together from sheets of paper, and then it makes these 3D items from this.
Whoa.
Isn't that cool?
It does. It looks like all paper is made from wood. So like,
Exactly, so it ends up being like plywood. Should I pass it around that direction?
Would
And I have some other ones to show
It's
you.
dangerous to sell.
If it was?
Like, is that highly priced? Like,
It is expensive. The printer is expensive, but the material is not.
oh,
So it's sheets of paper, so it's
how many?
it's dirt cheap. So basically something like this would cost $5.
No, how many sheets of paper?
How many sheets of paper? So it's probably printed that way, probably like 500 sheets of paper. So, here, I'll pass that guy around that way.
Y, in the y-axis?
I think this guy was printed this way, but that's a great question because when you guys get a 3D printer, when you get access to a 3D printer, that the axis in which you print things by, actually I'm going to go to YouTube and I'm going to do a clip of yeah. Okay.
This figure here actually, like the person actually looks like Channing Tatum a little bit.
That's a guy who works for us in Ireland.
Oh, really?
Thank you.
Yeah, so this company is from Ireland.
It's like a propane.
So this is how the printer works.
Thompson for Red Bull International.
In 4 seconds, we'll see how the printer works. 1 second, let's skip that. Okay, so this is how the printer works. So basically what it does is it cuts and pastes paper, and then the whole bed comes up and it puts 2,000 pounds of pressure. And that's how it makes those things kind of laminate together like that. Yeah, so then now it's gluing and cutting.
So that's the first step.
That is the second step. So you're able to make things like this. So I don't know if you want to grab that. So basically it's cutting and gluing paper. So it's like a really different way. Do you want me to grab that? The typical way that 3D printers work is that they have glue, hot glue or plastic, and it's like a glue gun and it squirts kind of plastic around. That's how that piece is done. But this is a whole different thing where it's paper. So there's nothing smelly and it's all kind of green, so there's nothing toxic in this process.
The way that actually, the way it's cutting it, it's almost like as if you want to design a stained glass window a little bit.
Kind of. So what happens with these pieces out here, so in order to make different shapes, you have to have support structure. You have to have something supporting it. So all these little cuts in here are support structure. And so it's laying on the next piece of paper, and then it's going to do the compression thing again. But those little squares break off when the paper comes out, and things like this. Okay, well, why don't we stop that? Why don't we turn the lights back on? I want to get out of here. So, and here's another sample of a particularly, and I think that's a nice thing that, once again, it's all printed with sheets of paper.
This is all.
You guys saw this, right?
Yeah.
And you get the color on there.
The color is done through an Epson printer. So the way the print,
On the paper itself.
yeah. So this is how the printer gets. This is how when it comes out, you got like this brick of paper, and what comes out is, so they just break it off, and you just break the paper, the little bits of paper. So I'll let that go on in the background while I'm talking. But so anyway, so the places where these things are being used. So they're being used for in animation for production companies for pre-visualization and for set building, and architects are using it, and engineers are using 3D printers, and product designers, and just all kinds of people designing things. And frankly, it's kind of the way of the future. I mean, it's going to be kind of used in every aspect of either virtual production or making things. Thank you.
So,
Yes.
so you can make almost anything with 3D printing.
Yeah. The important thing to remember, typically it's a prototype, not a functional part. So you're making a sample of something. There are metal printers out there. I was at SpaceX, and they're making parts of rocket ships on 3D printers that are printing in metal. So that's sort of happening right now.
There's different types of 3D printers for different types of materials, like paper, plastic, PVC.
Yeah, ABS plastic, various types of metals. There's actually, I don't know if you guys heard this or not, but there are printers that will print skin. I've seen blood vessels. I've seen veins being printed. It doesn't. You can't go to the doctor and have it happen right now, but it's going to, like the next couple of years, that's going to be available. You know, in your lifetime, you will be seeing this very soon. So human beings are going to live a lot longer. So my suggestion: brush your teeth, basically.
I had a curious question.
Mm-hmm.
This 3D printing technology like coming out, is it going to be to the point, I know this is going to sound kind of like a joke, but...
No jokes, yeah.
Is it going to be to the point where like, say for example, oh, I'm really hungry, oh look, I can print out a cheeseburger.
Not a joke. So there's a 3D, NASA has hired somebody to come up with a 3D printed pizza. And the point of so for like a year I was hearing about this and I tried to figure out, why do I want a 3D printed pizza? That just sounds insane. And what they're doing is they're planning on people going to Mars or further out in space. So they're able to put the containers of tomato sauce and cheese or whatever you want on your pizza in a package that's going to last for 20 or 30 years and won't go bad. And it'll just kind of squirt onto a printer. So they're doing that.
Kind of like Back to the Future, right?
I guess. I don't remember that part. Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. Part 2, where he puts it in the microwave and it goes ding and then it's a full freaking thing.
Yeah, so there's a chocolate printer that I've seen. There's a sugar printer that prints in full color. So you can print in sugar, chocolate, and then the pizza. That's all I've heard about in terms of food.
Is it edible?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, frankly, the paper is probably edible, but the sugar will taste better. Yes.
This food is edible?
Yeah. Wow. I haven't eaten it. I don't know that I want to eat it, but it's chocolate. Like chocolate, right?
Yeah, I like chocolate and pizza.
Chocolate pizza?
Chocolate and pizza.
No, but how about chocolate pizza? We combine the two of them.
There's a chocolate chip cookie pizza available at the John's.
Okay, well, I don't know if it's 3D printed, but
I have a question.
yes.
If you were to make figurines, like,
Yeah.
could you not just do the head, but the whole entire body?
Sure, let me show you. So, I have
But it would take you like an hour, 6 months.
I have a model that doesn't have much clothing on it. It's okay. Okay. Okay, let me show you this.
How
So-
long would it take?
Well, this thing right here took about 14 hours. But this, so this is a woman, and the point of this is that her tattoos were very important to this person. So our software just got updated so you can see kind of the tattoos are sharp, and if you can see all the details. So this is something that was kind of this is like 2 months old, if you want to pass that around. So.
I didn't want to.
So maybe I should hang on to her for a bit. Yeah. So in any case, I'll just kind of show you in kind of up close. So basically, the tattoos are sharp, and that was kind of the point of this thing. That prior to this particular software, it was impossible to get that level of detail in a colored 3D printed piece. And the only reason why this is possible is that it's printed in paper. So what's interesting about this process is that that since we're using paper, so putting ink on paper, cutting paper, and gluing paper isn't a big trick, but getting it into a 3D printed form is. Yes, sir.
Say for example you make a 3D character with like hair or fur. Could you 3D print that with the actual like?
Great
texture?
question. Great question. So hair is a big problem in a lot of reasons. So, with 3D scanners, because hair is reflective, people tend to put like nylons over people's hair so it scans better. There's this scanner, the thing that I'm pretty sure that this guy was scanned with is a scanner called the Structure IO, and it's made here in California, in Northern California, and it's a scanner, it's about $400, and it goes onto an iPad. And so as scanners go, this is pretty inexpensive. So you could see there is hair, there's not much detail in the hair. So when you're designing your
But it
character,
doesn't feel like hair.
not at all. No, Disney came up with a printer. I've never seen the results of it, but they have a printer that I've heard about that mimics hair, but I haven't seen it yet. The root of your question is really good because hair is incredibly complicated geometrically, and just the touch, the feel of it, is something that hasn't really been done
I
yet.
ask because, our technology is advancing each day. So.
It is true. With 3D printers, that is no lie or exaggeration. Every day something's happening with 3D
And virtual
printers.
reality too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just something that you need to just be aware of, that it's just changing incredibly fast.
What about creatures? How would that be done?
Same way. So basically, what you need to 3D print is you need something called a solid, a watertight solid. So the file formats that those tend to be are STL or OBJ. So the things that you run into in Maya would work fine. And then the color, in order to contain the color information, you need a WRL file. So that's a little bit more weird, but if you guys ever run into ZBrush, ZBrush does these things really well. So there's countless softwares out there. To your question in the corner?
Yes, you mentioned Godzilla earlier.
Yes, I did.
Which one were you mentioning?
Godzilla
exactly?
2000. Do you see that? Did you guys see that?
Oh yeah, I have it on DVD.
So if you ever see the Chrysler building in that movie, I didn't design the Chrysler building, but I made the polygons. So it was in those days, that was very complicated. It's probably not anymore.
Yeah, the reason.
I did the geometry and I textured that model. So that was like weeks of my life.
You didn't do the babies?
No, I just did the building.
Thank
It probably doesn't sound that interesting, but that was my job.
It's actually like the Godzilla came out in 1998. And so when the Chrysler building came out, because Godzilla 2000 was in Japan.
Okay, so I had the wrong Godzilla, so thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the reason I was asking because
Yeah.
there were two that came out during that time.
So the one that was more stupid, that was the one.
No.
Dumb.
Yeah, I had a job on one movie where my job was working on there was a character who had a beanie on his head. There was a little spike thing and had a ball on the end of it. And my whole job was animating that beanie. So it's nothing to necessarily be proud about, but that's the kind of jobs, that's the kind of work that's out there, is that you're working on this giant team and you're responsible for one aspect.
Okay, have you ever sculpted some characters in fighting poses?
It was never, no, that was outside of my expertise. My talent ended at the Chrysler building, I think.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave sculpting characters to you. What do you sculpt, what software are you using to sculpt in?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
You use Maya.
Maya, yes.
Yeah, so Maya's really great at that. And then down the road, another thing to look at is scanning characters or using photography as sample of poses. Yes, sir.
In terms of character design, do you think 3D printing will supplant traditional methods or just help it?
It will help it. Do you want to chime in on the future of character design?
You probably know more than I do.
Okay, well, I don't know that so if you look at Paranorman, what happened with Paranorman, so they made 40,000 mouth shapes to pull that movie off.
Yeah.
They took them 2 years to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why they did it in stop motion, I think, is that you can light things. There was like, if you watch the movie carefully like I did, you could see kind of a translucence in the ears because they lit the thing brilliantly, and they have lots of talented people making scale clothing and all the scale props. I mean, it's incredibly complicated, but beautiful, I think.
So you think that maybe like a 3D printer would help speed that process up?
I think 3D printers are going to help for physical-based models, movies. I think there are going to be things like the Paranorman that's made by a studio called Leica in Portland that makes
I'm
that.
familiar with them.
Okay, cool.
I think we have a question over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one with the blue shirt.
The one in the blue shirt.
Yeah.
So, the 3D printer, is it only usable by software like Maya and Sculpt?
What it's usable by, what it needs, is a watertight solid. So where these 3D printers came from was a world of engineers, and they all use a software called SolidWorks. Very high-end, not very intuitive, very kind of straight edge, not creative software. And as 3D printers have gained popularity, it's sort of caused some problems because Maya isn't that great for 3D printers, actually. And that's, actually there's a big gap right now between getting people to use 3D printers creatively is hard. I mean, the thing that kind of really excites me about 3D printers is putting 3D printers in the hands of students and artists, because they're very expensive and they're not really fully there. This is something that's happening as we talk. It's not done. And this isn't, like if you look at a photograph, you use a camera and there's a photograph and it's a very simple process. 3D printing isn't that. It's emerging. It's like lava. It's like emerging, and it sort of builds onto itself. You probably might have seen that there is a 3D printer talked about that was a lot faster. And it basically was able to create characters like Terminator 2 out of a puddle of goo. It would just build them. It would just build them out of goo.
That was from the T-1000, isn't that right?
Yes, was that the silver one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
Like by Robert Patrick.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
My father's an engineer.
Cool.
And he works in Dolby.
Okay.
And his newest project is a TV without 3D glasses.
Oh, well, that's a different type of 3D. So that's image-based, and this is kind of physical, world-based. So it's a little bit different.
And I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
Would it also work on Unity if it's 3D? Or just Maya?
Unity's a game engine.
Unity's a game engine.
Probably not.
I hear there are amazing things happening with game engines. I don't know the details. The issue is, so these what watertight solid means is that everything is three-dimensional parts. So instead of planes, you're using cubes, and there can't be any gaps. All the polygons have to be properly faced and meshed correctly. So even Maya sometimes doesn't get that right. But what's happening is the printer software is getting able to fill these holes better and to make them more usable. Any other questions? Sir?
Yes. Who is this guy?
I don't know. I think this guy is from India, actually. We have a company that sells our printer in India, and I think, yeah, so that's where he came from. Don't tell anybody this, but I borrowed this from our trade show booth, so I don't really know where it came from.
It's really cool.
So,
Keep it personal. I'll take your word for it.
yeah. So if you're watching this on the internet.
It looks like someone from India joins.
And what?
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones, okay, well, I don't know him particularly, so as long as we're not rude, don't be rude to him, but yeah, I don't know where he's from. But, I mean, the cool thing that's happening.
Oh no, I meant like the name. What's his name?
What's his name?
Yeah.
Well, we can make up a name for him.
What's his name?
As long as Mr. Nice Guy, how about that?
Okay.
But
Spencer.
Spencer, I like Spencer. We have a consensus on Spencer?
No, I
What do you got a name or you got a question?
Omar.
Omar, okay.
Short Gandhi.
Okay, Gandhi. So there's another thing I want to talk to you about. Do you have a question or?
Let's call him Henry.
I like Henry.
I like short stuff.
So something that you guys should know about, that Apple, so like your iPhones, Apple bought technology to do 3D scanners. So very soon you're going to have 3D scanners in your cell phone. So you'll be able to scan yourself like you do a selfie. And at that point you will be able to print yourself or put yourself in a game engine.
This is for like, if I'm correct, this is for the newest software to iOS 9, isn't that right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I don't have. They've owned this company for about 2 years, and it's gonna happen fairly soon. Try and be patient.
They said it would come this fall, and like it'll also give like 3 extra hours of battery life. Or by Apple said at press conference.
So it doesn't work on Android, like Google.
I'm sure they'll come up. It's not. You know what happens is that like iPhone comes up with a technology and then Android copies it, or vice versa.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm sure they'll be on all the cell phones.
Will it also work on the iPad as well?
Yes, it already works on the iPad.
And
There's
the Mac.
already scanners. It doesn't come free, but you can get an add-on.
What about the Mac?
Not sure, but probably. I don't know for sure. But basically the point, so the way 3D scanners work is that you just wave them, let's say in front of me, like a phone, and then it collects the geometry. It is able to capture, it reflects the geometry, and it's able to capture shapes and also the texture. So it's kind of like magic.
Will it work on Androids?
I just have some.
I assume so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. There's no reason to think why it won't, because it's a separate technology. I think my point was that they're just getting smaller and they're getting more available. So, I mean, you guys are going to have to figure out what to do with it. 'Cause I'm not, other than taking, I don't want scans of me, maybe I want scans of you, but I mean, there's things, the technology is happening so fast with 3D scanners and 3D printers that there's room for you guys to come up with creative ideas to do something that's never been done before.
So, by scanning our faces in 3D technology, is that going to be pretty much the next step in, say, motion capture for video gaming?
Well, it's slightly different. It could be, I assume you're right, it'll probably be combined. I hadn't really thought about that yet. But what you're going to be able to do at some point, possibly, I mean, we're just kind of thinking outside of the box right now, but it's possible that you'll have 3D scanner cameras, and you just point a camera and they just record multiple frames. I mean, if you could do 30 frames or 60 frames a second and scan it.
That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing. I'm not saying it's true yet, but it'll probably happen. We're speculating. Don't hold me to this.
I hope it happens.
So, I mean, we already have like technology where they put like a bunch of dots on
Right.
your face and they scan your face in, and it's
Right. And that's where motion capture started too, right?
Yeah.
Because they were capturing points, and then they were able to kind of, the point cloud got bigger, and different things happened. So, I mean, where it's all going, I'm going to leave it to you guys. You're the creative minds here. I'm the conveyor of information. Did you have a question?
Yeah, at the current present, are there risks about the 3D printer?
Are there risks?
Yeah.
The risk, that's a good question. The risks that are out there aren't totally known yet. The things that I'm concerned about, particularly with schools and young children, and I mean, the printer's gotten so inexpensive that you can put many in one room, and there could be fumes, and people are doing research, and I'm actually trying to, there's someone on Kickstarter who's doing that, who I'm trying to follow to make sure. Because, you know, I mean, the good things that's happening is a lot of the plastics are becoming corn-based plastics and organic plastics. I think they'd be less dangerous. But that's a good question. With the metal printers, there's lots of danger. So it's going to be a long time before we see any of us have a metal printer.
I actually have 2 questions for you.
Good, I hope I have 2 answers.
Okay, 1, are you a big Ninja Turtles fan? And 2, have you sculpted any which of the Ninja Turtles?
I'm going to have to disappoint you because I'm going to go, no, I'm open. I'm not a non-fan, but I'm working on my fandom, and I haven't scanned them, but I do have, have you sculpted one of their models?
No.
Okay, because I challenge you to do that, and then I challenge you to 3D print that. Maybe there's some way I can help down the road with something like that.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So if you sketch something out on paper, would you put it onto a 3D printer?
Well, you would have to do, this is the tricky part, is you have to do the geometry, you have to sculpt it digitally. So yes, Photoshop could do that actually.
Illustrator?
Not Illustrator. Photoshop has a 3D component to it, but I don't think Illustrator does. I'm not totally sure of that.
I don't think it is.
Okay.
Illustrator's factor, so it's not.
Yeah, but you'd want to be in like Maya to do this. Madame? I know you have a question.
I have.
That'll be the last question, by the way.
Okay.
Sorry so much. And you might want to check on it.
By 3D printing, can you clone people?
Can you clone people? Oh, soon. Do you want to clone people?
Yes.
You do? Okay. I'm not going to ask who you want to clone, but
Another me.
another you.
Yes.
So what's happening? So already people are printing organs. They're printing like a liver, or I've seen ears 3D printed. I've seen veins, and I have seen skin.
Actually, I was just going to say that scientists in Russia are actually like trying to clone a mammoth and to try and bring it back to life. And
Because there hasn't been enough Jurassic Park movies on it.
Well, they have started DNA of one mammoth in Siberia.
I can't understand. I keep on seeing these movies, and I keep on thinking, why has no one in the movie watched the prior movie? So it never seems to work out well with this cloning of animals.
All right. Well, we want to thank our guest speaker. Give us a round of applause.
Thank you so much. I hope to see your work soon, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.